Welcome to the TNT Effect, the Athletes Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tiara, Doctor of Physical Therapy and Certified Athletic Trainer. Today with me, I have the pleasure of speaking with Branay Hicks. She's actually a head athletic trainer for the Dallas Wings. And so welcome, Branay. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So tell me a little bit about your background. What led you to get into athletic training and, what led you to where you are now in your career?
Yeah. So I grew up, and I feel like this is a lot of athletic trainers' story, but I grew up an athlete. I played volleyball and basketball throughout high school, but I was big on basketball. And I actually planned on going to college for basketball as well. And I suffered some pretty major injuries, both my senior year of high school and going into my freshman year of college. And I used that to kind of see, I knew I wanted to be in sports medicine somehow. I actually thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. And as I work with both athletic trainers and physical therapists, I kind of honed in on the profession of athletic training. I just like that working with the athletes every single day and not having to rely on one or two visits a week and just be able to see daily progress. So that is what really led me to athletic training, just building that relationship with my athletic trainer in high school. That was what really inspired me.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it's a lot of athletic trainer story. Many of us were athletes and kind of got introduced to it somehow, whether it was through your high school or, if you played in college or something and got that experience at that time. But it's definitely a grind. Can you talk about a little bit of how you got to where you are now with the Dallas Wings?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a kind of a unique pathway. Texas has a state licensure program. So you can go to an unaccredited university and be able to sit for a licensure exam where you're licensed in the state of Texas as an athletic trainer. So I went through a 4-year program, UT Tyler in East Texas. And at the completion of that, I sat for my licensure exam. And there's actually a practical component to that, unlike the national board exams for athletic trainers. So I sat for that. I became a licensed athletic trainer. And 2 weeks after I finished my undergraduate degree, I started grad school. So I got into University of Texas at Arlington, and that's where I was working to get those ATC credentials added along. So I think definitely having those 4 years of athletic training experience in undergraduate was huge help and has really helped me get to where I am in my career, kind of at an expedited rate than most people are. Um, Throughout grad school, I had really good clinical rotations. I actually started as an intern with the Dallas Wings after my first year of grad school. That's when the team first moved to Dallas, and I kind of hopped on and got in there as an intern. And it was a lot of grunt work, a lot of intern-like work, and it was exhausting, but it was really rewarding. And then at the completion of my graduate degree, I got asked to come back to the Wings again. So I spent another season there as I was looking for a full-time position. And then I got on with University of Texas at Dallas, where I worked with the women's basketball, the softball, and the cheer and dance teams there. And that was an amazing job. I really liked the Division III atmosphere. And I got to continue to work with a women's basketball team, and that's my passion at the end of the day. So that was great. And then recently, right before COVID hit, I got a call from the Wings saying that they had a position open and they'd love for me to come back. And that's how I am today.
So you said a few things in there that I want to touch on.
Yeah.
The first thing was just having that experience, that foot in the door while you were in grad school. You got the internship, so that definitely helped create the relationship for you to get the position now as the head athletic trainer. And the other thing you mentioned, you enjoyed working with the Division III athletes. So talk about what was it about D3 that you enjoy, because you have a lot of athletes who are kind of like may turn their nose up about Division III athletics.
Right. Yeah. So I actually went UT Tyler when I went there originally for basketball. It's a Division III program. A lot of people sleep on Division III schools. There is a lot of talent in Division III schools. I know a lot of young athletes think just because I'm not playing on television, I'm not playing D1, I'm not getting scholarship money. for being an athlete that they're not that good of an athlete. But when I worked at UT Dallas, we were top 25 basketball program in the nation. Those level of athletes are stellar amongst, I mean, you're talking about thousands of Division III athletes, and we've got some of the best in the nation there. So do not ever sleep on Division III athletics. It's really competitive. And then it's rewarding itself because you know those athletes are there to get their education. They're not there to go on and have this professional athlete career. They're there to focus on their education and then enjoy being a really good athlete as well. So you get the best of both worlds for sure, without all the pressures of all of the Division I and trying to go pro after, and lifestyle after graduation. You know that your career is going to be focused on that degree you got rather than that basketball career you had.
And with that being said, D3 schools may not have as much funding for their athletics programs as like D1 or maybe even some D2s. Did you feel like you had limited resources to do your job?
I think I was actually really fortunate working at the UT school systems are really great to work for. We had essentially everything we needed at our, and we were fortunate enough to have 4 full-time athletic trainers, which you don't see at a lot of Division III universities. It's usually 2, sometimes even 1 to cover all of the sports. So it was myself and 3 others, and we all had 2 major sports and then a tertiary sport where it was like a cheer dance, a golf, where we don't have to be on site all the time. So best case scenario for working at a Division III school. Every situation you get in is going to be different depending on where you are, but I feel like we had so many resources where I was at.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that was the case because it's not always the case, and every athlete doesn't have access to the resources that so many other athletes may have. And so
Right.
let's move forward to the Dallas Wings. So let's talk about COVID, the bubble. Were you there for the bubble and all of that?
Yeah, the bubble was
Bubble, I
interesting.
should say.
The bubble, yes. So we, in about a 3 to 4 weeks time frame, found out that we were going to have to go to the bubble and had to leave for the bubble. So it was a lot of figuring out everything in a short amount of time period, figuring out how I was going to move an entire athletic training room to Florida essentially and figure out where it was going to be. Um, the athletic training facility I ended up utilizing while we were in Florida was actually my actual apartment. So I shared an apartment with my assistant coach and my assistant athletic trainer. And we had a really large living room space where we set up 2 treatment tables for the both of us to work on. We had game readies everywhere. We had Normatex laid out, everything. We turned the TV stand provided in the apartment into like storage rooms for our tape and everything. So it was a very unique setup, and it was a daily grind. We played games every other day. So after we had a 2-week training camp, games every other day, everyone's bodies hated them. And that's not even just our team. That was league wide. That was even some of the coach. I had coaches that were going to see doctors just because the stress of being in one place and the mental health aspect of being in one place for so long and not seeing anyone else and not being able to leave. It was a lot in the bubble for sure.
I I bet. And that's one thing about this profession. One, you have to be resourceful because you never know what may happen. You may lose. You may not get everything you need. You're traveling. Some pieces of luggage or equipment may get lost somewhere. So you have to be resourceful all the time. And then also the stress that you mentioned, like that's hard. So how do you handle stress in those situations? And then also touch on how the players were handling their stress and navigating all that. Do you all have a sports psychologist or someone to help guide not just the players, but the staff, the coaches, and everybody as well?
Yeah, so for myself, I typically am not one to get stressed. I feel like in this profession, you have to have a level where, you tolerate a lot more than people
A
usually
higher
tolerate.
threshold, right?
Exactly, because you're going to be stressed all the time in this profession, especially in the bubble when it was nonstop. You're basically seeing athletes all day, and then you go to practice and then you see some after. So It was a lot, but the free time that I did have, I had a lot of friends in the bubble that I made and other athletic trainers. That was a great part about being in the bubble is I got to connect with the other athletic trainers in the league. Not you wouldn't be able to do that in a regular season. And that was really rewarding for me as a first year athletic trainer in the league and having all of these veterans who are well known across the league and across other leagues as well. So that was super helpful for me to have that like decompression period with them where we sat and we just talked about the struggles we're having and how we can feed off of each other's energy. So that was really good. And as far as the players, we actually, so every day we had to fill out it was the NBA My Health chart. And it was basically you put in if you have any symptoms, you fill out any symptoms you have to record your temperature daily. And a nice little feature that they added in, which I really liked, and I recommended to all of my girls, they put in, do you want to talk to a mental health counselor? And you basically click yes or no. And if you click no, then people will leave you alone. But if you click yes, then someone will reach out to you. And there was a league psychologist on standby for any issues we had. And that was a really great benefit. But on top of that, our team itself, we utilized our psychologist. We had a few group meetings with our psychologists because everyone can go and reach out to him individually, but we do like to get together and do some like teamwork, team building exercises with the psychologist. So that was really good. And we utilized Zoom, even though we were all in the bubble. And then we had our GM and our psychologist back home. We utilized Zoom and we utilized the breakout rooms to go and talk about kind of issues in society and then issues in the bubble and then just like general team things. And that was really good for people to just sit down and talk about something that didn't involve plays on the basketball court.
Right. Well, that's, you know what, I like that. That's actually cool. I like how, things have shifted more towards a holistic approach to treating athletes, and and not just focusing on the injury, or getting them strong and making sure they're ready to play, but it's
Right.
play physically, but you have to work on all the other aspects of just being a human being, right?
Right, exactly.
So let's talk about some of the common injuries that you tend to see.
Yeah, I think basketball for sure, a lot of ankles and a lot of knees. That's my two biggest ones I see. And they don't always have to be like severe ankles or severe knee, like an ACL tear or anything, but just like general knee pain. I get a lot of patellofemoral pain, a lot of tendinopathies, and then ankle sprains. That was probably the story of the bubble. I think at one point we ran out of boots and we had to get like rush ordered boots for the entire league because we had so many ankle sprains. So those are the two big ones.
So how do you handle those situations?
So I'm big on doing prehab, especially for my girls who know that they have an issue or they've had an issue in the past that they don't want reoccurring. Then I'm like, all right, so when you come in here for treatment for anything else, even if you're feeling good, you're gonna toss in some ankle strengthening, some mobility, some kind of little work, or even I ask the girls to they do a pretty extensive warm up every day before practice and a nice little cool down. And we even utilize exercises in the warm up where we're doing proprioceptive work in the warm up and we're doing toe walks to strengthen the calves in the warm up. So just adding little things like that that'll get them warm, but it's also rehabbing. They don't even know they're rehabbing. They're just
Right.
it's kind of a mind game you play with them and get them focused on, all right, I'm getting prepared to play today, but I'm also working on those issues I've had in the past.
Right, exactly. So what does recovery look like for athletes post training, post game?
Recovery, honestly, it's so different for everyone. I have a trickle of girls that literally just always feel good all the time and I love them and it's great. It's fantastic. And then I have those that are like, if I don't have a Normatec every single day after practice, I won't survive. Easy enough. We do a whole lot of manual therapy, a lot of soft tissue work. A lot of the biggest complaints are just, oh, I'm just a little tight. So helping them out, like doing their own mobility is helping them out for sure. But getting in there and kind of breaking up those adhesions in the soft tissue as well makes them feel worlds better. And that's, at the end of the day, that's the goal.
Good. That's good. So when an injury happens, let's kind of break up your role a little bit. We know that you one walk us through what the hands off duties look like, and then also what happens, say, when an acute injury occurs and what your role looks like during that phase, and then when you're actually, say, in a clinical setting or training room setting, what that role looks like.
Yeah, so it kind of looks different for every scenario. I know for a fact that if there's an injury on the court, my biggest thing is to calm them down. They're hysterical, and a lot of times in the WNBA too, we're on TV, so we've got cameras on us. They're hysterical. I always go out with the towel in case they want to cover their face, or if there's a bad injury, we can use the towel to cover the extremity. That's something that I utilize a lot. But a lot of the time, my on court assessment is just getting them to calm down, poking around to making sure this isn't a medical emergency, and then getting them off the court. We're not doing any full evals on the court with ESPN watching at all. But immediately after that, we do an assessment. We see, all right, what's the extent of this? Is this something we think we're going to be able to come back from now? And that's the big part about athletic training, is do we have them now or not? Because we got to know that. So if they're mobile and they're walking, then we get right into the functional aspect of things, like, all right, we got to jog, we got to cut. Let's see if we can get back out there. Do we need tape? Do we need any preventative measures for you to play? Now, in the event that it's not something I feel like they can come back from, in the league, it's great. We always have either a team doctor or a physician of any sort on standby, so we can come over if it's more serious. They can take a second evaluation, and then we can just go from there, as far as if we feel like we need more diagnostic tools or any testing after that. If we're in a practice scenario and someone gets injured and they come into the athletic training facility injured, then it's a more thorough, full eval to make sure, all right, we know this practice isn't going to change the worlds if you miss it. So see if it's something we can bounce back from pretty quickly, if it's minor, and if not, then let's sit out today and then reevaluate tomorrow. But I'm not one for jumping to, oh yeah, immediately she's going to be out 2 weeks. Unless we know for a fact, like, this person had surgery, we have deadlines, or we have certain time frames that we have to meet with injuries. I will not go out there and tell coach definite 2 weeks. Let's see how she looks tomorrow and go from there.
Right. If it's broke, she won't be back.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. Yeah. And then I don't want to tell them, oh yeah, she'll be good tomorrow. And then 2 weeks later, she's still kind of limping around. So I try to keep it really simple and generic, to where we know, all right, we're going to track this on a day-to-day basis. It looks like right now it could be around this time frame. So trying to keep it simple based off of my immediate evaluation. And then if further diagnostic testing shows that it's going to be longer, then hey, coach, you're going to have to deal with that.
So how do you handle those conversations when you have the athlete who is, they're injured or they're coming back from an injury and maybe they're not quite ready yet, but almost there. They've met a lot of their goals and they're pretty close and they're ready to get back in. How do you have the conversation with them as well as with coaches?
I explained to both the athlete and the coaches that this is going to be like, we're almost there, and this is going to be a gradual toss you into practice and see how much you can do. Whether that's, all right, we're going to start with a real basic shell drill. It's non-contact. You get to cut, you get to move around, but you're not having anyone chaotically move and having to jump to this force or that force. So I start with, and if that feels good, that same practice, I'm like, all right, well, we'll do a few minutes of live shell drill and you'll see how that feels. If anything bothers you, let me know. We'll dial it back. So it's kind of a take it one step at a time. When you get to that 90 to 100% range, where you're like, oh, I'm feeling good, but I'm not 100. The confidence is a huge part. If they don't feel like, I literally this season had a girl tell me, I don't think I'll be able to cross people over like I used to. So it's like, okay, if that's your issue, then I want you over here crossing this cone over until you feel comfortable. to go out there and cross a regular person over. So it's a gradual progression. It looks completely different for every single person, because some people have no issue with confidence at all, and they're like, yeah, I feel good, I'm just about to go out there. And then they usually go out there and they can do a whole practice and it shocks us all, and we're good to go. But then you have those other people that are like, yeah, I was able to do it, but it did cause a little bit of pain. I was like, all right, well, let's dial it back just a hair, and then we'll go from there. So it's just a progress for everyone, and knowing your athletes helps significantly.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, sometimes it's sometimes it's not always the physical readiness, it's the mental readiness. And so you have to
Right.
be prepared for that just as much as the physical aspect. You know, you may be 95% physically ready and you'll be okay to go out there, but the confidence, if it's not there, like that could put you at just as much risk as it would if
Exactly.
you 75% ready, you know, from a physical aspect. And so
Right.
you know, that makes a world of difference. And so what does some of your injury prevention protocols or even just tips look like? You kind of touched on a little bit of it. You do a little bit of prehab. You know, is there any other aspects of injury prevention that you like to incorporate, whether it's you know, promoting proper nutrition, or you know, we talked a little bit about recovery, or anything else?
Yeah, I definitely I tell all my girls to be upfront and open. Trust me, first of all, because that's the biggest thing that needs to be established, is trust. And if you have any little ache or pain, just let me know as soon as that starts. Even if we know it's not going to be anything major, like maybe you just got hit in the side, it's going to hurt for a little while and it's going to be gone tomorrow. Any little ache or pain, we can jump on that now. So I've gotten really good, and girls have gotten really good with communicating with me. Anytime they have any little issue, cool, we'll address that. We might start doing a few exercises for it. And then if it doesn't bother you in 24 hours, then that's just how it is sometimes. But if we jump on things early, that's the best thing. I'm big on giving home exercise programs to my girls, because a lot of them either don't want to stick around after practice, or they just don't want to come in, or there's just not a time in between their media schedule for them to come in and do the extra work that they need to do outside of all the strength training they're already doing and the recovery they're already doing. So I will make a complete home exercise program for them. And it's really simple. It's all stuff they can do on their own, in their bed, on the floor, with little to no resistance at all. That's just making them a little bit stronger and keeping them aware of their own body. And it includes like mobility, so they'll sit in bed and do a pigeon stretch every commercial break, or they'll do glute bridges, or we'll have girls with knee issues do quad sets every commercial break or something like that. So really, I keep it really simple for them, so they'll do it. They know it's not going to be all of this extra work that they have to like add into their day. It's something that they're just chilling. All right, now I can toss in these body weight squats or these leg raises or these quad sets, something super simple. Stretching is a huge thing. I give everyone the thick green stretch bands, and they all have that. If they don't have it, I'm like, here's a towel. Here's how you can do everything with the towel. Making resource out of every little thing you have, especially with COVID, that made a lot of us really good about figuring out what we can use in our home to make each other stronger. So that was cool. And even before we went to the season, like people had little issues here and there. And I said, cool, I'm sending you a home exercise program. I know you can't find the gym right now, but hey, you can add a case of water bottles as resistance, something unique, something easy for them to do.
So what are they doing now? I mean, yeah, of course the season is over. Anybody overseas, you know, you have to mention any names or anything like that. But are the women still here? Are they overseas playing? Are they just chilling? Like, what does that look like for them, as well as for you? You know, the staff members.
Yeah, so most WNBA players go overseas in our off season. And we actually, a lot of my girls had about 14 days after our last game in the bubble to when they had to report overseas. So the the time crunch was really crazy. The girls left the bubble, they went home, spent a little bit of time with family, and then immediately reported overseas. So they're all currently, almost all 12 on my roster are playing overseas right now. Um, I do get texts and calls from them every so often, like, "Hey, this has been," and they have athletic trainers overseas, but they always, that's, I like that they are good about checking in with me. I will still send home exercise programs to them overseas, so I know they can count on me for that. That's one of my big things in the off season. In the off season, also, I still handle a lot of the workers' comp claims. So in the WNBA, all injuries are filed under workers' comp since that they got injured on the job, um, and we basically get call any bills we get regarding the imaging or the doctor's visits. I still get calls saying, "Oh, this is a past due balance." Perfect. I'll get that sent over to workers' comp, handling things like that, getting devices ready. And then, like, in a few months here, I'll be back at the arena getting everything organized for the upcoming season, seeing what we need to get ordered. We're currently working on getting some different partnerships with people that could help me out, massage therapists, physical therapists, all kinds of different things in the off season. It's very interesting. This is my first off season with the Wings full time, so not having truly anything to do, it feels like not having any hands-on work is different. I've been utilizing this time and getting a lot of CEUs. I've taken a course and plan on taking a few more courses. So yeah, off season, it's nice right now for sure.
Right. This is unusual, right?
Yeah.
um one of the last things I want to touch on is just your relationship with the other team members, the coaches and the other staff members, strength and conditioning. How do you all work together? What does that relationship look like amongst you all? And just to be successful in helping the team be their best.
Yeah, I mean that relationship has to be there. That is so crucial because the athletic trainer probably spends more time with the athletes than a lot of the coaches and the strength staff. So they come to me for a lot of guidance on these girls' personalities, and to have a relationship, a good relationship with your coaches and the all staff included is really crucial. Strength staff especially, because they help me out a lot in the rehab prehab portion of things. If
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, "Hey, this girl has a limitation," I'm pretty specific with the limitation. I don't want her to go past 90 in her squat, or I want you to avoid any overhead, or keep her keep an eye on her knee valgus when she's squatting, or things like that. So they keep little eyes on things like that. They help me modify things they're doing in the weight room, but then they also are good about honing in. I'm like, "Yeah, she just got back from knee surgery. Make sure we're really like pounding that lower extremity strength and that plyometrics work and her jumping mechanics, making sure that." So that's one less thing that I have to worry about, because I know I'm focusing on it in their little bit of rehab time, but they need that after a certain point of rehab. They need that full body strengthening. And our strength coaches are great about really like specializing for each individual and not just making a broad workout plan. And I really like that about the strength staff. And then the coaching staff, it's we do have a change in coaching staff, so it'll be a brand new, trying to build a new relationship with someone else. But I've never really had too many issues with building relationships with coaches, because they know we need each other and we need to work well together, we need to communicate well together. So relationships with everyone else, and that's even like your media people, your PR people, like everyone on staff, like don't burn bridges ever.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good though. I like that. It sounds like you all have a really good team environment and you work well together. So that's like paramount to
Yes,
getting to
definitely.
thrive. So last thing, what are some tips or recommendations that you would one give like the younger athlete who wants to play in college and a professional level? And then also what tips would you give the college athlete who wants to play at the professional level?
Yeah, for the younger athletes, I would say the work doesn't happen in the 2 hours of practice at your high school, your middle school, at your club team. The work happens when no one's watching. So All of my athletes are the athletes they are because they put in so much time in the gym outside of those allotted practice times they have with their team. And yes, those practice times with your team are great. You're going to learn a lot of skills, you're going to learn a lot of good things there. But if you're not putting in that extra work on your own, when no one's watching, when no one's like there saying good job, like you're doing this well, then you're not going to be the best athlete you can be. So put in that work at all times and really hone in on working when no one's watching, because that's when you're really going to be good. That's the when you have those kids come in freshman year and they make the freshman team and they're not happy with that, and then they go over the summer and they just grind all day and night and they come back and they're a varsity starter. So that's the type of work that you need to be putting in if you want to make it to the college level. And then for college athletes, just know that the NBA and the WNBA, and this is just talking basketball, but those aren't the only professional leagues you can play in. There's a lot of overseas leagues. I know Division 3 athletes that have gone overseas to play a sport that they love. So it's possible at any level, and just continue to work. Just like those younger kid advice, I continue to work when no one's watching. Yes, you've reached almost the top of your game at the college level, but there's always room for improvement and there's always places you can strive to play at, for sure. There's different level leagues. You don't have to be an NBA player to be a professional basketball player.
That is so true. So true. And I think that the mentality of just the fame and the, being a celebrity, and so much of what we see on social media and on TV, it's kind of like, yeah, that's cool and all, but the chances of someone making it to that level, it's they're slim. And
Right,
so
exactly.
there are other opportunities for you that are bigger and wider, and you will get an opportunity to, if you play overseas, you get an opportunity to experience a new culture, different people, see things in another light. The perspective that we have as Americans is so much different than other cultures and other
Right.
societies. So it's, don't despise small beginnings.
Because you never know where they can take you. Never know.
Exactly. Grind day and night to
Yeah.
achieve your goals, and just keep going for it. As long as you have the ability and the resources and the support to keep going, like, go as far as you can, as far as you want to go.
Right. I completely agree.
If there's any last things you want to say, go ahead and you know, say some things if you like.
Yeah, I just say for the young athletic trainers out there, the ones that are still in school, the young physical therapists out there, anyone who's trying to get into sports medicine, just really stick to it. Find your passion, find what you want to do, and then get in positions to where you can reach those goals. Find those internships, harass people until you get information on the best internships or an internship in the field you want to be in, and keep pushing because it's not easy.
It's not. It's not. I mean, going through school as an athletic trainer, it's a lot. And
Yes, for
even once you get into the profession, it's a lot. So please know if it's something, kind of get that experience before jumping in, but then, just get an understanding of what that lifestyle requires, what that means, what the sacrifices mean for you, and potentially a family. So, you definitely want to make sure you set yourself up right for
exactly.
for something like this, right?
Yeah, for sure.